Hi, everybody. This is Vernita Howard, the founder of Breaking the Silence on Domestic Violence. Me, along with some other wonderful ladies, are coming to you to bring you awareness on domestic violence. Domestic violence is a pandemic within a pandemic that we're already facing with COVID 19. As our nation is in crisis, we have always been in a pandemic with domestic violence. Many people do not want to talk about it. And due to COVID, people worlds have been switched, turned upside down. Just imagine our topic today is at home shouldn't mean at risk. As we all know, that the outlets for some of the children were at school, to be at school where they were away from their abusers, and some of our mothers or some of our fathers were at work, but with the pandemic, they have been stuck at home with their abusers. So today, we are going to tell you real life stories, give you awareness on what domestic violence is, and warning signs. We can all relate. That's why we're here to spread awareness. So, just a little bit about who I am. I am an author. I am a founder. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am an advocate for domestic violence. And I'm here to make sure from my table, from their tables to your table, you have the awareness that you need. You will be educated and aware of domestic violence, what it is, and the signs that people face. Remember, always be a listening ear and not a running mouth. At home shouldn't mean at risk. Yolanda Henderson, can you introduce yourself to our viewers?
Sure. My name is Yolanda Henderson. I'm the author of Breaking the Cycle of Abuse, Be Free, Stay Free. That's available on Amazon. I am also an abuse advocate. I'm an abuse survivor. I'm a mother of one beautiful daughter, and I'm just here to, help raise awareness in any way that I can.
Yolanda?
Yes. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Can you reintroduce yourself? Because we had some technical difficulties. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's okay. So my name is Yolanda Henderson. I am an abuse survivor. I am an author of the book Breaking the Cycle of Abuse, Be Free, Stay Free, that can be purchased on Amazon. I'm also an abuse advocate, and I'm a mother of a beautiful daughter. And I'm here to help raise awareness of domestic violence, especially during this time of the pandemic.
Awesome. Talisha, can you introduce yourself to our viewers?
Yes, my name is Talisha Salas. I am a life coach and also a survivor of domestic violence of 7 years. Um, a very strong advocate of it. Um, I come from a large family of six. I'm a mother. I am a daughter, a fiance. I'm going to be getting married soon. But just coming to bring awareness to domestic violence, and especially during this time when people are stuck in the homes during the pandemic. So I just believe in just making people aware and breaking the silence on it, so that people will know they don't have to continue to be at risk, even though they're stuck at home.
All right. Miss Pamela, can
Hello,
you introduce yourself?
I am Pamela Blunt. I have been advocating against domestic violence for the past 12 years. I actually bring the perspective of what it's like to witness domestic violence in the home as a child. As a child, I watched, as domestic violence happened, and eventually also had to end up watching as it took the life of my mother. So I get to share that from a child's perspective, get to share, advocate on how to overcome domestic violence as a child, and how to not fall into that cycle, and just be, a better person outside of domestic violence.
All right, ladies. So we're gonna jump right into it. Our theme today is at home shouldn't mean at risk. Do anyone want to elaborate what domestic violence is for our viewers?
Domestic violence in itself is so broad. I'll give you an example. Even though a lot of people, for some reason, only see it as being physical, but it is so many layers to this particular onion. Speaking with a gentleman yesterday, and he said to me, he said, Pam, he said, he wanted to do a feature story on my particular story, and he said, well, I don't know if it can be really, really long enough because there's really, really not a whole lot to tell. And I said, well, a lot of people look at it that way because they don't know a lot about domestic violence. Because we come from a culture where if there's not black eyes and bruises, then it's not domestic violence. So a lot of people don't know and don't understand that it can be financial abuse, that it can be spiritual abuse, that it's mental, that it is so psychological abuse, that there's so many layers to domestic violence outside of the bruises and the black eyes. A lot of people don't know that domestic violence can be between a mother and her son, not just, a boyfriend and a girlfriend. It can be between friends. So there's a lot to learn about domestic violence. That's why I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. I follow you women, and you guys are, first of all, let me just tell you, you're some amazing people doing some amazing work, and you're doing something that nobody really, really wants to do. So I just want to take the time to applaud each and every one of you for the mantle that you've picking up and that you've decided to run with, because I know that this work is not easy. And I just thank you for being in this fight. And I'm grateful to be a part of this fight with you guys.
So much. What we do is not easy, and that's why having these roundtables are so important to my organization and myself, because as a survivor, as you stated, there's so many forms of abuse, and people do not realize it's not just and it's important that we know the different forms. So and we can get right into it. And so I'm gonna let the other ladies, if they want to speak, they can, but it's so important that people do understand that it's more to abuse than just physical abuse.
Right. I can share with that. There was something that a lot of people, like you said, they think that it's, the bruises and, someone physically abusing you. But abuse is also, it can be physical, sexual, emotional, social, verbal, like you said, spiritual and economic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, really huge, especially now, especially the economic abuse, because a lot of women or men that are in abusive relationships or situations are really codependent with their abuser. And so they feel the need to, just tough it out and deal with it a lot of times because they are in a situation where financially they're not able to, or think that they're not able to get out of that situation. I personally experienced financial abuse. I experienced partner abuse was the one that I experienced the most. And I also experienced sexual abuse. So my book goes into the different types of abuse that I experienced. And for a long time, I did not know that it was abuse. I had no idea. I kind of thought that was the norm for relationships. I thought that was kind of, maybe that's just what it's supposed to be because it kept happening so often. And so with my book, where I talk about the cycles of abuse, I talk about dealing with the same spirit but a different phase. And that's kind of what happens. You continue to fall into a cycle of dealing with the same kind of people, the same abusive type of person. And so it's kind of like the predator and prey. But all of those different types of abuse. And sometimes you can experience multiple types of abuse within one situation as well. So,
Right.
And I agree with her as far as it's different types of abuse. I know emotional abuse is a huge one because it's almost like they take control of your mind. I was in a partner abuse as well, 7 years of it, and it was like a very controlling situation because emotionally they hold you captive, telling you that you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't go here. Mine even what you can't wear that, take that off. I don't like that. Very controlling. So it's not. I agree. It's not just about the bruises and the bumps and the things that you go through physically, but just bringing awareness to the fact that it's all types of abuse out there. Because even if you're free from your abuser, you still have to be free from the things that's been put into you during the time of abuse. And that your mind is a huge hindrance to you as you go out. And also reiterating what you said about, I was going through a lot with continue to deal with the same type of man with a different face, being drawn to the same type of person, even though, because that's your new normal, that's what you don't know anything different. And so it's very important to just know who you are and what you bring to the table. And, it's deal with your self-esteem and a whole lot of different issues other than just the physical.
And one thing for me as being a survivor, I'm going to piggyback off what Talisha said. I constantly found myself in the same type of relationships. And the reason being is because I was broken. And I had this persona I didn't want to be by myself. So I constantly found myself with the same, attached to the same type of men. And until you start your healing and you find and you begin to be whole, everything that you take into that next relationship is nothing but the baggage from before. So not only are you bringing in like all the issues from that prior relationship, now this person has their own dealings and their own demons, you might as well say, if we call it out, they have their own issues. And because as women, I know for me, when I was getting into the different relationships, I would hear people say, oh, well, he done this to her and, or whatever. I was like, well, that's her. He's not going to do that to me. So I kind of felt like, okay, we all have issues, but I could come over here and help him. He can help me and we're going to help each other. But when there was two broken people there, we couldn't help each other. We just put more stress upon each other. And then when it did get physical or, the verbal abuse came, the, emotional abuse, the financial abuse, whatever, it's like, well, what did I do? And people will say, well, you must have done something. And I don't know about you ladies, but I remember a couple of relationships that I were in, and the moms would be like, oh, well, the next time he hits you, call the police. So then when I call the police, I'm dealing with them and the sisters. Why did you call the police? What did you do? We just had a different phone, a different talk last week. And so that's why these round tables are so important, because the young women that say, well, the mama said, baby, let me tell you, some of them mamas will change on you. Mm-hmm. And today is the day that, with my round tables, our round tables, we believe in keeping it real. At home, if he's beating on you, contact one of us so we can help you develop a safety plan to get out. We're blessed. And I can say that everybody sitting at this round table is blessed. We're blessed because we're here to spread awareness. But as Miss Pamela said, everybody don't make it out. And her mom is one who didn't make it out. And so now Miss Pamela is, left to tell her story, tell what they seen, to help bring awareness. So I want to come to you, Miss Pamela, as a child, as seeing domestic violence in the home. did you go through your own personal, like once all this happened, have you ever been abused yourself? You know, statistics say that, you know, when a person go through domestic violence, they've seen it in the home. They come from a single family, a single parent family. That's what statistics say. For me, I wasn't in a single parent family. You know, my parents was together until my mom, until God, you know, until God came in and took my mom. So that's my question to you, Miss Pamela.
I've never been in a domestic violence relationship. However, I am the third of four children. So I have seen it with some of my other siblings who, you know, did go on. My one became actually the abuser. The other one was the one being abused. So I think that that was kind of like the foundation. It laid different foundations for each of us. For me, and people always ask me, like, when you saw your mom getting beat, what were you thinking at the time? And I'm just like, what do you mean? Like, I thought it was wrong. Like, you know, did you know that that wasn't okay? Absolutely. Like, we knew this is not okay. You know, I saw my mom hit so hard that her tooth literally flew across the room. Like, what kid actually sits and think, wow, like, this is interesting. My mom's tooth just, no. Like, yes, I knew that that was wrong. And I took that thing. I built on that, you know what? This is not going to be me. This is not going to happen to me. And even now with my daughters, like, I'm so open and transparent with them when it comes to DV that it's just like, boy, like, people say, you really tell? Yes, I do. Like, and yes, I started early because DV starts early. So I started having that conversation with them. But no, I've never been in a DV relationship. I'm so thankful for that. I don't know if I would have been able to handle it. And I probably would be speaking with you guys from behind bars right now, because that's just how adamant I grew up to be about it, that, like, no, and I know that it was, and I know statistically I'm supposed to be, because, you know, you know, children who witness it in the home, they either become the abuser or they become part of an abusive relationship. But I thank God that there was a plan and a purpose for my life. And, you know, I didn't know it at the age of 8 when I sat in that room and I watched my mom as she was stabbed 13 times. I didn't know that God had a plan for my life, but the plan that he had for my life outweighed any statistic that anyone come up with. And for that, I am so grateful today.
Yolanda, we know that yours, you know, I don't want to tell your story. I'm going to let you tell it, but can you give us some background on your on your story, and because yours didn't happen in the home.
Right. Yeah, so I grew up pretty much like you said. Both my parents were in the home. There was no abuse in my home. I didn't see that at all. However, there was later on I found out that other women in my family had been in abusive relationships and things like that. So it was in the family, but I didn't know it at the time. So I was carrying out, I would say, like a generational curse that I didn't really know about from my grandmother and everything. So my first abuse happened at school. I was in a classroom that was not heavily supervised. It was a class that kids took in high school. I was 15. I was in the 9th grade. It was a class that kids took to get a credit. And if they had driver's license, they could go drive, get something to eat. If they wanted to go play on the basketball court, they could do that. So many times I was in the building either by myself or only with a few other kids. The teacher would be in his office. So my first experience with abuse was in high school with a man that had come back to finish his degree or his diploma. to get his diploma. And at that time, they would allow people to come back up to, I think, age 22, which I think is crazy to this day. But I think he was 21 at the time. And it started off with just, little signs here and there. He would say kind of crazy things, off the wall things. I know we're going to talk about signs later. But that kind of set the groundwork or the foundation of the cycle for me. It started off with fondling, unwanted touch. I started to realize that my no did not mean anything. And so I went from trying to fight against the sexual abuse to just kind of detaching myself from my body, if that makes sense. A lot of people that have been through sexual abuse, they know that there's a point where you are physically there, but you're not mentally there. Because at that point, that's the only way you can kind of control how you are responding to what's going on. And so that went on. There was unwanted physical touch. There was also physical abuse that happened. And there was a time where I wanted to tell somebody. I didn't really know how to explain what was going on because I had never seen it before. I had never experienced it before, but I knew that it wasn't right. And so I would, write poetry about it, and I started to dress differently, which is very important for parents to know, because sometimes it's not a phase that they're going through. Sometimes there is something that they can't put into words that is happening to them, and so they express it outwardly with how they dress. I would wear my brother's pants and my brother's shirt, and thinking in my mind that, okay, maybe if I dress differently, he won't want me, or he won't continue to do what he's doing. So that was my first experience with a male, period, because I was a very sheltered child. I wasn't put in unsafe places. I was at school where you're supposed to be safe, where you're supposed to be watched after. And that just wasn't the case in my situation. And so at age 15, that was how I experienced attention from a male. And so it kind of messed up my view of what the interaction between the male and the female is supposed to be. He was very controlling. He wanted me to, say certain things, be in certain places and things like that. And he would mask it as though he was playing when other people would walk in. So it always, nobody knew. And I was in the room with other people. But at times where I was alone, there were other areas in the building. It was a band room. So you had various rooms in the band room. You had behind the stage. You had the front foyer area. I wasn't even safe going to the bathroom. So it was something that literally changed my future for the next probably 10 years. If not even more than that, but definitely for the next 10 years, I remained in a cycle of dating guys that were abusive. And a lot of the abuse, I didn't realize, like I said earlier, that it was abuse. I didn't know what to call it. And it wasn't until I was in graduate school, I was working in the library and I was putting up books, and I happened to come across the section that was about abuse. And I was putting books back up there, and I looked at what I was putting back up there, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to open this up, just see what it says. And I started looking at the definitions of abuse, and it hit me like a bag of rocks. Like, oh my God, that's what that was. And so for me, it kind of sent me on a downward spiral. I went into a very deep depression. Didn't want to leave the house. I had covers over the windows, like all of that stuff. I started to pop pills so that I wouldn't feel, the pain of what I had realized had happened to me for so many years with different people. And so that's kind of where things started for me. And it didn't end until I had an experience with God at a church, and I was tired of it. I was tired of dealing with the same thing. I was tired of dealing with the same spirits. And I was just like, God, I'm done. And that was the beginning. It was not the end. That was the beginning of me being freed from it. But I talk about in my book, which I think one of the ladies said earlier, the aftermath. Because even though you are not physically still there, your mind and your spirit and your body, everything, now you have to deal with the aftermath of all this. So, yeah.
So Yolanda, let me ask you this. Being that yours didn't happen at home and it happened at the school, what advice do you give parents? Because now with the way technology is set up, the pandemic has changed the way children go to school. Some are going to school, I guess, a couple of days during the week. Some is not going at all. And we say that at home shouldn't mean at risk, but nowhere should put you at risk as a child. When, as a parent, if I'm sending my children to school, I'm trusting you to be that safety net for my child. And it's the same thing, when you're at home, as a parent, you should be that safety net for your children. And so one of the things that you said was your appearance changed. Once things start happening to you, your appearance changed. You start wearing big clothes. You done different things like that. So as parents, what advice would you give them when you're noticing change within your children? Because, a lot of times we'll say, oh, well, they're feeling themselves, they're going through the pubic age, or, yeah, she went and hung out with her friends the other night. She haven't been the same.
Yeah. I would say definitely pay attention to, it can be subtle changes. It can be, I know with me, I started becoming more inward with my emotions. I did not talk about it. So notice, okay, is their communication level changing? And also, even before that, parents have to build that communication with their child. They have to be willing to talk about the stuff they don't want to talk about. They have to be willing to hear the stuff they don't want to hear. And when I say listen intently, don't listen to respond, listen to understand. Mm-hmm. And as you're listening to understand, try to, pick up those little subtle changes, because they may not tell you, until later. And it may be something that you have to notice. One of the things that I can attribute to my godparents is that they noticed that I was jumpy around me. And my godfather just asked me, like, what happened? And that was the first time that I said something. Because when him asking me what happened kind of broke something in me that I had been kind of holding, So noticing those subtle things and then once you notice it, say something about it and be prayerful. If you believe in God, be prayerful that God will show you that, okay, you need to talk to her. Something's going on with her, So being attentive. And if you work a lot, that's, that can be very difficult because you're providing for your family. And so getting counseling for your whole family, if you can. There are services, that will provide counseling free of charge if you have certain insurances. And also, if you have a diagnosis, you can get counseling either for free or at a discounted rate. Don't be afraid to go talk to somebody. If you know that there's a communication breakdown between you and your child, they may not talk to you, but they may talk to somebody else.
Right.
So
communication is very important. And especially throughout domestic violence, because with domestic violence, most of the time you're taught at and not talked to. So there's a big difference. So Talisha, can you give us some of your story, like how the abuse happened within the home, um, and share with us what you to help us understand the awareness that you're bringing.
Well, mine was partner abuse, and I was with him for 7 years. And when I first met him, I was at a very low state in life. I had been divorced and actually was, very low state with that divorce was very, I had been with him since I was young. So when I met him, I was just lonely. I was beat down, and just really at a state where I just wanted somebody. I was depressed and, really low. So when I met him, I knew that he wasn't, in my mind, I knew it probably wasn't the best thing because the way he approached me was more like he just needed somebody to be with. And so I decided to do it. And it really wasn't any red flags at first, because they say look for the red flags. It was pretty okay at first. But then when we had our first child, that's when the abuse started. And it was like he is Latino, so it's kind of like culturally, I don't know, I didn't really know that it was like he really saw us more like a possession. And so he started to abuse not only myself, which, he also started abusing my daughter that came from the marriage. And so I was with him for, 7 years. And I mean, I knew right then that I was kind of hiding because I was in church and we were going to church every Sunday and I was hiding behind a smile and I was, I was leading worship and I was really into the church. And so was he, but it was a lot of shame with it because we were going and we were doing things, but at home, we were getting abused and mistreated. And so physical and mentally abused my daughter as well as my son that I had brought into the marriage as well. But when I had my son, my youngest son, who's now 9, he was staying home with him. And so he was still abusing me and everybody else, but he was out of work. He was laid off at the time. So what happened was I left him at home and I would notice like when I come home, I would see bruises on the children, bruises on, the baby and try to figure out what's going on, but I had to provide. So I was the provider at that time. So I had to keep going because we had to have money and all this kind of stuff. Well, one day I woke up and I actually saw my youngest son. He was in the crib and his leg was swollen. And really that was a life-turning event that really was life-changing for me. I went to work. He went to take him to the doctor to find out why his leg was swollen. I found out that he had been severely abusing my 2-month-old son. He had broke both of his legs and his arm. At the time, I didn't know. I had went to work, came to the hospital, and it was just like a complete change of life. At first they let me go in to the x-ray because they was trying to see what was wrong with his leg. And then the next thing I know, I have police officers and teddy bear and social services and all these different people involved. And so basically he had, because of the abuse, they investigated and he was arrested and all that kind of stuff. But it was a life-changing event, but I used to cry and act, and it was only God that brought me through. I knew God, even in the midst of the situation, God still had his hand on us because I know we shouldn't have made it out. He would tell us things like, if you ever try to leave, I'm going to kill you. And it, unfortunately for me, and that's the reason why I'm an advocate, it took my son almost dying for me to really realize, for us to almost like we were saved from the situation. Because if he wouldn't have did what he did to my 2-month-old, then I wouldn't be, where I am today. None of us will be here. But anyway, he was arrested and everything, and I had to start over as a parent. But if I could say anything, I would say that, to any woman out there, to just walk away because, in my case, it was physical abuse for all of us. It wasn't just me, but my 2-month-old son. And statistically, the doctor said he wasn't even supposed to live because his bones are so fragile at that age that one broken bone can kill you. But the Lord spared our life, for a purpose. We're here because God allowed us to be here, and so many women don't make it out. So I do encourage, to get out, and that's why I don't mind speaking out. I used to be real shy about it, didn't really want to tell my story because you want people to see you a certain type of way. But we really need to help people that's in these situations because, by the grace of God, we're still here for a reason. So that's some of my story as far as what I went through in the home and stuff. And fortunately, my kids they were too young to really remember, but he did do permanent damage to my son. He blinded him in one eye, and he also has a lot of different medications he has to be on now because of it. And so the testimony is we're still here, but if I can help any other woman out there, just know you don't have to go through that. You're worth more than what you put yourself in. So, but thank God we're still here by the grace of God.
And it's so important that we know our worth. And so this roundtable is a little different, because I'm having you ladies tell your story. For me, mine started, I was 17 years old. And I come from a 2-parent home. So I got pregnant, but we was in church, and, I wasn't saved, but I was in church, and that's the difference. And people don't always understand that. And so I got pregnant with my oldest daughter. And so I just wanted it to be right. I wanted my children to have the same thing that I had. 2-parent home. And everything was great in the beginning. But once we got on our own, it was like he was a whole different other person. The signs was there, but I was like, oh, we could work on that. He's frustrated because when we first got married, we stayed in my parents' home. And then when we moved out, like I said, he became a whole different other person. And the signs was there the whole time. There will be times that we was out, and if I didn't say something or if I spoke my mind, his temper would elevate. But I was like, oh, okay, we make excuses for it. The final draw was after being married to him. And even after he beat my son out of me, I still went back. I wanted exactly what my parents had. I never seen my dad do that. So it's like, okay, well, maybe I need to change something about me. But in reality, it was nothing that I needed to change. It was he needed help. He needed change. And even when I would go and press charges on him, I would drop the charges because we went through this honeymoon period where I got the flowers, I got the money, I got this, I got that. And so once I would get this stuff, okay, it's great again. And just as soon as we disagree, I'm being hit again. I only thought it was in the beginning, it was just the physical abuse that I went through until I learned I worked. He was in control of all the finances. I knew nothing about it. I was in several car accidents. Didn't even realize that, I had money in the bank. And so I was allowance, $250 a month. In that allowance, I had to get makeup because makeup was an expense. It was like paying my rent. Because if not, I was going to wear those bruises. And of course, he didn't want anybody to see his prize doll with bruises on her, And so, not really knowing the signs. And I remember when the sheriff would come out, I didn't want to hear what they had to say because in our community, we have this saying, what goes on in this house stays in this house. When I was raising my children, I never used that sink. And the couple of times that once I learned better, I stopped doing it. I remember a time that something happened in my home and my daughter went and told it. I was furious. But if she did not tell it, I wouldn't have the welfare checks that I was getting. I wouldn't have, what I needed. And I probably wouldn't even be here. So what I will say to anybody is, do not tell your children not to tell when abuse is going on in your home. Somebody needs to know. That may be your only way out. That may be a life-saving experience. Yes, we do get angry because we don't want people knowing our business. But when you have to walk around, see, for me, the outer scars, I could cover them. It's the inner scars that cut me deep. And we don't want to talk about it. But it's so important that we do. Miss Yolanda Carter has joined us. And so Miss Yolanda has a powerful story as well. But before we get straight to you, Miss Yolanda, let me ask Miss Pamela a question. So Miss Pamela, you guys seen the abuse in your home and you never went through it. But what advice would you give to a child that really wants help now, that sees the abuse happening in their home, but they don't know how to express themselves, or they're scared that their mom or their dad is going to get upset if they tell what they see?
Witnessing domestic violence in the home, one of the things that I encourage them to do is to find a teacher. If you are attending church, you may want to find your Sunday school teacher. I don't know if they still teach Sunday school. A lot of churches don't. But somebody at your church, somebody that you can confide in. Because to be completely honest, it is really, really hard as a child when you have your parent over here saying, don't go out of this house telling my business, because like you said, what happens in this house stays in this house. And children, even though we see the videos on Facebook and TikTok where children say some of the dumbest things or some of the smartest things, or children, they're just so funny. And we just laugh because these children are saying stuff. But children also can be some of the biggest secret keepers that there are. And we kept the secret. We didn't tell anybody. And it is extremely hard when you have your mom saying, if you go out of this house and you tell what happened last night, I'm gonna whoop your butt when you get back. It's very hard. But then it's also hard when you're standing there with your mom when she goes to the neighbor house and she's saying, you know what, I need help. I need to get out of this. I was just beaten, and you're standing there and it's cold. I can remember us being put out of the house pretty much in 20-degree weather with nothing but t-shirts and panties on. And we go to our neighbor house and our neighbor would open the door and they shut the door in our face. As a child, you are so torn. You really don't know what to do. If I go over here, if I go to school tomorrow and I tell my teacher that this happened last night, I'm gonna get a whooping. But what if I do tell my teacher? Is she going to put me out of the classroom? So you don't really know. So I encourage them to find someone that you can confide in, even if it's your best friend's mom, because that is a heavy burden for any child to have to bear. And not only do I encourage the children, but I also, when I'm talking to teachers at school, look for those signs. Pay attention to your children when they're coming to school. I can remember going to school with blood on my shirt, Yolanda. I can remember going to school with the same clothes on for 3 days. I can remember going to school dirty. I can remember going to school and I'm so tired and I'm so sleepy, I can't stay awake. And nobody said anything. And then we get labeled. Now, and I go to school and I act out and now I'm labeled, I'm a bad kid, but you guys don't understand what I'm having to deal with when I leave here at 4:00. You don't understand what I'm seeing. So I'm encouraging the teachers, pay attention. And we're talking about this pandemic at home. And I just want to put this out there because I read an amazing story that hit me so hard it almost knocked me out of my chair. And it was a story, and they were talking about these kids going back to school and how they're having to do school online. And there was a little boy, 10 years old, first day of school. He's logged in, and his mom is helping him. His mom is there. She's helping him. He has two other brothers, so they're all there. And not only is her children there, but she has two of her brother's kids there. So she has about 5 to 7 kids at her house now that she's helping to get ready for this first day of school, helping them to log in. And guess what happens? Her boyfriend kicks the door in, comes into the house, and he shoots her 10 times. Shoots her 10 times in front of the 7 kids. So I'm reading this article, and this article began to talk about, so that's why we have to keep having this conversation, because guess what? Not only are the people who normally deal with DV dealing with domestic violence, but now we have children that were sitting there on their Zoom watching this, who don't know, who has never had any experience with it. So now people who normally don't deal with domestic violence in their house, because of this pandemic that says, you know what, you can't go anywhere, you got to stay home, you guys got to do these online classes. So now we have children who have never seen their mother and their father fighting, watching as some other kid's mom is now being shot 10 times. Now we have teachers who, like you guys, grew up in these homes where they don't know anything about domestic violence. They're not in these relationships, who now just witnessed a young lady shot 10 times on the first day of school. Now, what do we say to that little boy who just watched his mom die? Because every day for the rest of his life on the first day of school, this little boy now has to deal with the memory of my mom was shot on the first day of school. And this is why we can't keep turning away, y'all. I get so passionate. I'm so sorry. Y'all got to say, Pam, pull back. But I'm so passionate about this thing because these children, they have to deal with this thing. This little boy, he has to deal with this thing. Now he has to go to school, and his teachers are saying, oh, he has ADHD. No, ma'am, this kid just sat and watched as his mom was shot 10 times. How do you deal with that? What do you say to this kid? What advice do you give this child? What advice do you give to the teacher? How do you tell her to continue to teach when she is now fearful that she may see the same exact thing again? And yet
and it's not, and she can't even console him and tell him home is safe.
If not for the teacher having to call the HR department at the school to get the address for the little boy, to send the police to his house. Man, this thing is so serious because it's not just he's now, like I was telling one of my friends the other day, domestic violence used to be, it used to be between the partner, the man and the woman, or the woman and the man, but now they taking out whole families. This thing is taking out families. It's taking out cousins. It's taking out mothers and fathers. It's taking out your best friend. And yes, I know that people are scared because this is happening, but we can't stop talking about it. We cannot let our mantles rest because, oh God, they say the numbers are going up. And I know y'all like me, y'all have those days where it's just like, you know what, I don't want to do this thing no more. But every time you get ready to say, I don't want to do it anymore, then here's another story of somebody else. It's like, if we don't do it, who does it? That's why we got to have these table talks, man. Can you imagine the first day of school? The first day of school, somebody shoots your mom 10 times. I can't imagine. I tell my little boy, and I promise y'all, I'm not going to talk all day. I was talking at a church service one day. And after service was over with, I shared my story. Little kids in the back just boo-hooing and crying. I didn't even know the little kids was back there, y'all. This little boy runs up to me, grabs me by my legs, and he says, Miss Pam, want my mama to die like your mama did. Little boy, couldn't have been no more than 8 or 9. Here comes another little girl. My mom's boyfriend beats her too. We're standing in the middle of the church, y'all. Third little kid comes up and she says, my mom's boyfriend beats her all the time. And they're just giving out these details, and come to find out that the last little girl that came up was the grandmother pastor. Children are watching this thing. As a matter of fact, it is said that there's about 8 million children in just our country alone witnessing domestic violence. And people are still saying, well, you know what? It ain't my business. I ain't got nothing to do with that, Pam. Like, I can't get involved with that. I'll give you some money, but I can't say anything to my coworker who's dealing with this. And right now we're in this pandemic and your coworker is sitting at home every day with her abuser. Man, this thing is crazy. Because for some people, work is an outlet.
Right.
For some people, for children, sometimes school is an outlet.
Yes. I remember somebody told me that they couldn't address it. They was like, it was happening in their, they were living in an apartment complex and it was happening, And I was like, well, have you ever called the police? No. So my question to them was, a bullet has nobody name on it. A bullet has nobody intentions. They might be intending to shoot, but what if that bullet ricochet and come to your house? So is it still none of your business?
Nobody.
Sometimes we have to take people out of their norm. And so I began to ask her, and she was like, well, I don't want to be involved. And the one time she did call the police, they came to her house. She was like, they look at me strange. I said, again, if that guy shoot and kill, or that girl shoot and kill that young male, and it hit something and it ricochet back, and your child is in that living room and your child catch that bullet, do you still think that it was not worth the call? And those are questions. It's hard questions, but those are questions that we truly have to ask. Is it so you're telling me her family's not worth it? I ain't gonna get in her business. I don't want to be looked or labeled as a snitch. But what happens when that bullet ricochet back and hit your family? What happened if you're walking outside and he's shooting at her and it hits you? What happened? So this, and guys, you're gonna see me get emotional because this is my passion. I want the children safe. I want the women safe. I want the men safe. I mean, we had an incident here in North Carolina where at 17, I was thinking about, if a little boy cheat on me, hey, I'm gonna get you back, not taking his life.
Right.
And they don't realize it's domestic violence. It's completely different. And that's why it's important that we educate our children. A lot of people say, oh, you talk to your little sister. I do.
Absolutely.
Because it's not okay for nobody to hit you. It's not okay for nobody to spit on you. It's not okay. And what really gets me is, back in the day, we was told, oh, if he hits you, he like you. Baby, don't hit me. Yeah. I teach my grandsons now, keep your hands to yourself. Yeah. I don't allow them to play that hitting because it's going to lead to something bigger. And so we have to stop sugarcoating things and we have to keep it real. And so I know when I spoke to Miss Yolanda Carter the other night and she was telling me her story, I said, well, did you see any signs? So I'm going to let her tell y'all a bit of her story and what she do, because we're all advocates, but we do things, to make sure that people get the awareness that they need. Miss Carter?
Good morning, ladies. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to you all. I am so honored and blessed to be able to be a part of the round table today. I thought we was going to start like at 12, but you know what? I'm different. I'm in Chicago, so maybe if I got on a little late, I apologize. Okay, so my name is Yolanda Carter. I am a domestic violence survivor, first of all. not only a survivor, I'm a thriver. I am an author. I have a book called One Eyewitness, and it was curated because I was left to have one eye, and my son was my only witness. And I'm also a certified domestic violence outreach advocate for Metropolitan Family Services. What my duties is to make sure I go out into the communities, I inform, I empower, and I motivate other women or survivors so that they will not become a victim, or help them to be able to give them some the telltale signs, the red flags and warning signs before it's too late to get out. So you touch the nerve when you start talking about the children. And I know that being a witness to domestic violence, I've never seen it growing up. I never even knew what domestic violence was. I never heard my parents even talk, even in a demeaning or disrespectful way. So when mine started, I would want to say I was like 19 years old. It started, and I didn't understand it because I'm like, why is this man looking at me? And like back then, if looks can kill, you'll be dead. And those are the kind of looks he would give me. And then after I had my first child, that's when the hitting started, the pulling of the hair. I was working a job. He would twist my arm and my hand to take my money, put me out the car, make me walk. I couldn't even look in the next car because he would think in his mind that I knew the person that was driving the other car. So I went through a lot of things, and then I was in hair school. Then I became pregnant again for my third child, because I already had a child at the age of 16. I was a mother at the age of 16. So my daughter, um, you would think that if you experienced it, but it wasn't, the domestic violence didn't really start it didn't get worse until the second child that I had by this person. So with that being said, I couldn't understand. He would, what gaslighting is. Make you feel like you crazy. Oh, this is not happening. Oh, you're overreacting. You crazy. And he would hit me with stuff, and I'd be crying. He talking about, what's wrong with you? I ain't do nothing to you. Why you crying? Stuff like that. And I would just eventually I would start hating myself, because I was like, I don't like this. Why would somebody do that to you and you're not doing anything? But to come to find out, this is all he knew. This was this was taught. This was learned behaviors, because what people see at home, they learn, and they mimic what they see, and they thinking that this is their normal, because their normal was his dad beating his mom and making her get in place or whatever. So I guess he felt that this is what grown men do, to make your women do whatever you want them to do. But it didn't take that for you to tell me, baby, I need you to do this, baby, I need you to do that, because I can get it together, no problem. But as that time went on, I end up later on, I would run away sometimes, me and my kids. But guess what? He would find us and bring us back. And I just got tired. And when you get tired enough, you have to have a strong will to be able to walk away. And because of the fear, I was fearful of him, but I lived in my family building. So, of course, my dad came up to my apartment one day and told him, you have one more time to put your hands on my daughter with his peacemaker. It's going to be a problem. So, um, he tried to again, but eventually he did something and he was sent to jail. So that was like, oh, that was a way out. But there's a lot to that story. That was my first encounter of domestic violence. So as I'm growing up, having my own way, my children, I decided to, just be in a dating field, dating young guys. And I started realizing now, after constantly dating, I realized that I was in one bad relationship after another. It didn't look like it at the time because of They were good to you. They were very charming, very charismatic, very attentive, give you the things, buy you all these great things. But there are some warning signs that I did not know that was domestic abuse, because it was not always physical. And that's one thing that we need to make sure that we always tell people, to make them to be able to identify what domestic violence really is, because we thinking, oh no, I'm not in a domestic violence relationship. This man is not hitting me. Yeah, we do the cussing at each other. We disrespect each other. We call each other the B words. And, he may call, belittle me, make me feel a little stupid sometimes. But, oh, that's normal. That ain't nothing. But guess what? That is domestic violence abuse. Mental, emotional, verbal, psychological isolation, and financial abuse, and also spiritual abuse. And that's one thing that we need to make sure that we talk about more and more, because it's happening in the church. And the pastor does not ever want to really shed light on that situation, because it's an embarrassing situation. Can you imagine some of the deacons in the church? They're abusing their wives. A lot of the pastors are abusing their wives. And a lot of biblically, people always want to refer to the Bible. This is what the Bible says. No, no, it doesn't allow you to have to beat your wife, disrespect your wife in a demeanor way, make her feel like she has walking on eggshells. That is just plain abuse. Narcissist behaviors these men have. Not only men go through domestic violence, and I'm not going to always say it's a him, because there are women. We have to be held accountable for our actions as well, because these tongues that we have, it's like a sharp-edged sword, and it will cut like a knife. It will tear you down. It will break your spirit. And after the abuse that I've gone through, I can tell you now, but back then I couldn't tell you. Oh no, I was just cussing them out. I would make them feel little. Sometimes I said, man, I'll jump myself out the window, the way I would talk to him, in a demeaning way. So we have to be very careful. We
Mhm.
have to make better choices. We have to make better choices in who we allow in our lives, and what we do to, to make sure that we're not hurting no one, because hurt people hurts people. And that's one thing we need to know. Hurt people
Mhm.
always will hurt people. Because if I don't know how to treat you with dignity and respect, I'm going to treat you the way I know how to treat you. And if I'm hurting and that's all that was portrayed to me, I'm going to give it back in return. So that's why it's so important for us to make sure that we are lining up in a way that we know how to be respectful, and what we want, what we give out, we want to come in return. So, um, witnessing domestic violence, it was not me, but when you said that those children had to come to you and say those things, that brought me back to March 22nd, 2016. I don't know if you all know my story. You all went in my page and seen my story, or watch me on a lot of the TV, Windy City Lives, and news clips or whatever. I am one of the voices of domestic violence. March 22nd, 2016, was a normal day. You couldn't tell me that I would ever be in an abusive relationship with this gentleman. I'm still gonna call him a gentleman, because no matter what, he was still a gentleman. He was a man. And I know we all say, well, these are monsters, but I don't nail everyone to the cross from a bad experience. But you could not tell me that this knight in shining armor, that I thought that was um, the person that would always come to my rescue when I needed him. He would nurse me back to health when I was sick. He would make sure I had all the things, put me on his joint account, bank account, money. I mean, just all of that would tell me that this person would try to take my life. So March 22nd, 2016 was just a normal day. And we normally would get up, and I would take him to work, and I would take my son to school. I would go to work, And then our routine was after I get off of work, I would pick him up and pick my son up. This never happened that day. I was shook to wake up. I want to say like 5:30 in the morning. My son had to come to my rescue and witness. Can you imagine your mother in the room fighting for her life with part of her brain matter and everything laid out in the bed for you could see this? The man that I trusted with my life for 8 years decided while I was asleep, he took a hammer and brutally beat me and left me in a pool of blood to die. And my son, this is still fresh out. My son, my only eyewitness. Can you imagine your son hysterical? He's shaking you and trying to see, make sure you're alive. I didn't know what was going on. He shook me. All I can remember, the last thing I remember is someone in a voice saying, "You're snoring, ying, 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 ying." That was the blow. I don't know how many blows he did before I was completely out. But he did so much damage. I had multiple gashes in the back of my head. I have a metal plate. He crushed my skull and my cranium. I had beat me so bad that all of my facial bones on the left side of my face are broken and shattered. And the detectives and firemen and everybody came in. I can hear faint things and hear people, because first of all, they had to make sure that I had my faculties, and they were asking you all these questions. Who are you? Do you know what day it is? What's your name? And all these things to make sure that I'm alert and I'm able to talk. So I just kept telling them, just don't let me die. And they kept assuring me and telling me, "Oh, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. You're talking." But they were I'm hearing them, oh my God, she's alive. She's alive. Because look, all of this stuff that they seen in the bed, I waking up, blood coming out of my nose, my mouth, and this stuff in the bed. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And I said, what happened to me? And my son said, "Mama, he beat you with a hammer." And I couldn't understand, like, why would somebody do something like that? That's a heinous thing for someone to do and not even know why this had to happen. Like I said, it was a normal day. We had no argument even before this happened. So I could not understand, and I still, right now to this day, wanted to find out why this had to happen. Because you was the person that told me, "Oh, I love you. You are my morning star. Good morning, morning star. Good morning, sunshine. Good morning, boo boo kitty. What you need, what you want." And I was like that pedestal, like a statue on a pedestal. Like if you touch me the wrong way, I would shake and break. That's the type of person I thought I had. No, don't get me wrong. We did have some times when he would disrespect me. He would call me the B word. He threw my phone down the alley one time and broke it. He threw alcohol on me. He did a lot of things. I would put him out, but because of the compassion that we have for our men, we still love them no matter what. But we still want to, like I said, okay, I'm teaching you a lesson. So if I'm the B word, I'm gonna teach you a lesson. I'm gonna put you out and let you realize that I'm not that B word you say I am. So at the end of the day, a lot of times we make excuses for bad behaviors because we don't make it look like it's normal to us. These are things that we normalize all the time, and we think that, oh, it's nothing. It's gonna go back to normal. So yeah, he don't talk to me days at a time. Oh, I'm not talking to you either. So I became hardened. So with someone abusing you, all you can do is know all your defense mechanism is to give it back to them in return, and you try to figure out a way that you can hurt them way more than what they hurting you, and it's not healthy. So we have to make better choices. We have to make sure that we are in a position to be responsible for our own safety. Can you imagine? This is me you looking at 13 surgeries later, reconstructive surgery, in and out of the hospital. The first 3 years, this year was the first year that I was not in the hospital. I've been wanting to celebrate my rebirth celebration for the last 3 years, and I couldn't because the first year was me being in the hospital having this 15-hour reconstructive surgery. Last year, COVID. Now this year, I'm trying to figure out I deserve a rebirth celebration, and and I know that God spared my life because He knew that I was strong enough. And a lot of times a lot of times we self blame ourselves. We want to, like, if I what did I do wrong? Is it because I had some of his clothes packed, or is it because I was disrespecting him and he didn't like it? Sometimes, and we're trying to figure it all out. Not only that, you're dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. Just 2 days ago, I'm dealing with some things, and because of, I guess, all the stress on me, my rent went sky high. I don't have the money to pay all my bills, and it's Christmas time, and it's a lot going on, and I'm like, why am I going through this? And then all of a sudden, I'm waking up hearing like a gunshot go off in my head. This post-traumatic stress is starting to really take over me again. And how can I be helpful to other people when I'm going through this myself? And I always tell people, you know, oh, I'm okay, I'm good. And see, what it is that we always want to make people think that everything is always okay when it's not. It's not okay, because I'm human. I want to help someone through my experience, and I make sure I educate, I inform, and I motivate you. And even through this pain, God gave me purpose. So I just wanted to make sure that we educate people. And these are times right now, because of COVID, the shut-in order. I did a segment on Channel 7 in the early March. One of the newscasters reached out to me and asked me, could you do a domestic violence case, COVID shut-in order, domestic violence segment with me. And I did. And it's a perfect storm right now. And because of it going up so high, people are not really recognizing that this is really definitely a problem, that we really need to shed light on it every day, all day, if we can. We need to beat these
Mhm.
streets. We need to make sure that we allow people to know that this stuff is real. And I'm not just talking about it. This is my life experience. So I'm not just saying, oh, okay, I know this is happening, and I know this is life experiences that I'm teaching from. Healing is a journey. This is not something that, oh, you don't just wake up, oh, get over it. This happened 2 years ago. This happened 3 years ago. People don't know your story, your struggle, what you go through. Because, first of all, I'm helping other people. I talk to young women all the time. I talk to other people about DV that they didn't even know. Oh, I didn't know that this was domestic violence because he's not putting his hands. No, baby. Trust and believe. Domestic violence is not only just physical. It's
Mhm.
mental, emotional, verbal. If you are walking on eggshells, if someone is telling you, oh, you ugly, nobody else wants you, you should be happy that I want you, or it's telling you, oh, isolating you from your friends, family, and love. Well, I don't want, oh, baby, I just want you to just stay home with me. I haven't seen you, or even, you don't need to be with them. Just stay home with me. And these are little oh, okay, he loved me, and it's okay, I stay in, baby. So why do we have to allow ourselves to be in a position where we allow them to take our power away from us, and without us even really identifying with it, letting them see? Because this is how it is. If I'm telling you, oh, okay, baby, I'm gonna stay in with you, you see, okay, no, this is what I want to say. You'll be like, well, is it okay if I go to the store? First of all, that right there was number one. That was a no-no. Because it's like letting him know that, oh, she's gonna get my permission. She's waiting on for me to give her permission to go walk in and out this door. So you see, that's the little things like that. Be like, well, what do you think, baby? If but I know when in a marriage is a little different because sometimes you have to consult your relationship partner. But when it
Mhm.
comes down to boyfriend and girlfriend, when we start doing stuff like that, well, you know what, baby, I wanted to go, but what do you think? Do you think I should go, or can I go, or can I go? Not do you think? Well, can I go? Right there, what did you do? What did you do? Just do. You just gave your power away, right? So that's why we have to make better choices. We have to be responsible for our own safety, and we have to protect our peace. And what it is that we don't know self-consciously a lot of things that we're doing, but we're doing it and not even recognizing that we're doing it. And another thing, never tell your present relationship what your past relationship was like, because you know what they do? They will use it against you. If you were being
Yes.
abused, if he was disrespecting you, if he was doing, oh baby, I know you ain't gonna do that to me, but this man was horrible. He did this, but he'll look at it, oh, you're weak. You allowed this to happen. So now
Yeah.
he's already recording all of this stuff. So that makes him look like, yeah, I'm gonna use some of these tactics, because a lot of these are tactics. They start crying, oh baby, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. These are honeymoon
No
phases that we
periods.
don't. You go through that honeymoon phase, after the abuse started, the tension started building up, and then all of a sudden, he make you feel like you stupid. And then I know some of the young ladies that I've dealt with, they was like, I'm stupid, I shouldn't have never did. I said, no, sweetheart, never down talk yourself. Never say you are beautiful. You always speak positive affirmations. Don't never speak because first of all, what they know is that if I can get her to her lowest, I got her. He's
Yes.
taking all of your power away from you. And we have to make sure that we tell these young ladies, tell these men, because not only women go through domestic violence. This is
Exactly.
this is a intimate. It's not just an intimate partner thing. The children are going through it as well,
Mm-hmm.
and the cousin, sister, brother, whatever you choose, they all are going through domestic violence. And people think, oh, that's not domestic violence. This is family. They just do no. Family
No.
is not supposed to do that. That is a form of domestic violence. And when you be
Exactly.
able to identify with that, you would know, because I didn't know a lot of this stuff until I was informed and I was educated myself. And then not only that, people don't want to listen. And like she was saying, a lot of times we want to give up and say, you know what, I don't even want to talk about it no more because they don't want to listen. My audience is not building up the way it should be no more. It's going down. And I'm like, wait a minute. Then I have people to tell me, Yolanda, thank you. Still continue to do these lives because it's important. Because like I tell people now, I say, well, if I'm doing a live, if it's not for you, please share these videos, because a lot of times someone else that's on someone else's page or someone else's page is going through it right now. Don't you know there's 20 people per minute that's going through domestic violence right now? There are 1 out of 4 women and 1 out of 6. No, yes, 1 out of 4 women and 1 out of 6 men will be affected by domestic violence in a lifetime. But also with violent crimes, there's 1 out of 9. So the statistics is very, very high. And due to the shut-in order, you cannot just go to the place to get a restraining order or go to the courts, because there's no courts open right now. They said maybe mid January or something they probably start opening up, but right now it's like you just out. So we have to create a safety plan, but we cannot just tell anybody, oh, what we're doing. You cannot tell nobody, oh, girl, I'm ready to go out and try to leave this man. Never tell your abuser that you're going to leave him.
Leave
You
them.
always have
Exactly.
you always have a professional that you're going to connect with that can help you to, create the safety plan, because these safety plans are not something that you could just get out and go pack your bags and just walk out the door. It's not that.
Exactly.
And you have
And
to
I'm
set up.
glad you
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought that in, Yolanda. A couple of things I want to, because I don't want to forget. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, one is a lot of times in the relationships, and we give our boyfriend or our girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
husband and wife, um credentials,
Yep. Mhm.
when you're asking, can you do this, and can you
Yep.
do that, and that's just your boyfriend or your
Yep.
girlfriend.
Yep.
I'm not saying that you're not supposed to communicate and agree,
Mhm.
for levels of respect, but when you give them too much control, why would they even marry you? Um, again, another thing that you hit, a safety plan. A lot of people, the first thing they'll say is, why did you stay? Why don't you just leave? If and I love telling my story, and especially at the churches, because you see them say, I wouldn't have went through that, or they I was at an awareness, event, and it was a pastor who said, well, all she had to do was pray about it. Baby, she done lost her and her children. You don't think that she was praying? There was plenty of times that I was praying, but because of the demon within him or within them, you know what I mean? God kept me. He spared every single one of us for a reason. A time such as this, and I'm real with it. Even in the ministry, I tell the young girls all the time. Um, I remember my parents used to say, before you start, before you want to date them, go around and see. I couldn't understand that. Oh, he treats me well. He give me money. He bought me a but he take me on dates. Oh, he go get my nails done. Oh, he made an appointment for me to go get my hair done. Baby, some of them are baiting. They was taught that in the home. Bait. We don't want to
Grooming.
talk about that. And in
Mhm.
our homes, we need to teach our children now. If I'm getting your nails done, what she needs you for? If your daddy or your mom is taking you on dates and socializing and communicating with you, when this person come in with their tactics, what can you do? Because my parents already did that for me. And I'm real, and that's what I teach my daughters now. Take those babies on dates.
Right.
Take them on dates. So when Susie Q come to the boys and make it seem like, oh, baby, man, my mama go on dates. When my granddaughters, when they're old enough to date, their dads, their granddaddies, their uncles are taking them on, teaching them now. You know why? Because when JoJo come with his pants sagging or what, baby, you don't have no conversation for me. That's number one. Number two, oh, you just want to go take me out to eat? My daddy could do that.
That
We have to stop teaching them that it's
And
just
not
okay to settle. That's why a lot of us have
right.
gotten into the relationships we have. And I also teach my daughters, don't mimic anybody's relationship, because what it looked like on the outside, baby, might not be what is happening on the inside of that home. And
Right.
that's where we have to keep it real. I know a lot of times they say to me, you take the time to do these roundtables. Yes, because listen, and I'm gonna keep this. When the Sherpas come and giving me papers, I will throw it away. You know why? Because I felt like they wanted to be in my business. But I didn't have any business, because when I was calling them out there, I became their business.
True.
But then, we go back. They just want me to put another brother in jail. Or, you know what, man, I ain't even gonna do it like that. I'm gonna come from the brother side, because I got brothers. I ain't even gonna do it like that. Just leave that chick alone. She crazy. No, it's something there. We need to be educated. We need to know. And for me, I was called a bitch so much that when people would say it, I would look it like, what? What you want? You know, that becomes reality, and it should not be reality. What should be is we're able to sit and talk about a healthy relationship.
Right.
Another thing that with domestic violence that really got me and was teen dating violence. What? All that with teen dating?
Mm-hmm.
Not even realizing at 17 when I was going through, it was considered teen dating violence. But because I was not educated on it, it was like, he's gonna get better. This how he showed me he loved me. Listen, if he or she gotta put their hands on you, they do not love you. If they cannot talk to you without screaming at you, go find a safety plan to go. One of the things that I learned in my situation, and you ladies can piggyback however, was now I'm blessed that when I walked out, I wasn't broke. And I know a lot of people walk out broke, you know? But one of the things that I learned is you don't turn over your finances completely to nobody. You know, I was comfortable in knowing, oh, well, bills are paid. I'm going to get my allowance. I'm working every day, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, however you want. Why am I being allowance? Why do I have to ask the question, oh, is it okay if I take some extra money to get me some shoes? Is it okay if I take some extra money because I see a different color lipstick? You know, we have to ask those questions. And honestly, if we sit around and listen, sometimes people give you so much information in their relationship by having a simple conversation with them. So we got to stop saying, oh, we're not going to address it, because we need to address it.
Most definitely.
Because what happens is, you know, I can't imagine, you know, Yolanda, I lost a son and through the domestic violence, but I never got to hold him. For 21 years, it made my life, it captured my life. 21 years. I've only been telling my story 5 years. Because 21 years around this time of the year, I was going in shutdown mode, in depression, like to the point that I didn't want to be here. The only thing that kept me going was I had to make it seem okay for my children that was here. But on the 23rd of December is my son's date of birth and date of death. You know, and so I remember September of this year was the first time me being back in the same space as my first abuser. And the struggle that morning to go because of the sake of my grandson, I had to, because I promised them I was going to be there. But we could talk about being healed, being whole, and being real. But until you face that abuser again, how deep have your healing been? How deep was it rooted? How deep was that pain rooted? And for me, my abuse was happening within my home. So now that's why it's important. And I'm so glad that you ladies brought up all aspects. You know, I do the spiritual abuse with domestic violence. You know, I have the pastors talking. That was one of the hardest things, was to get our leaders talking. Mm-hmm. But I had to come to them. People need this. This is what I'm getting. And a lot of times and this is what I love about having my own organization. Because when people can't get to that nitty gritty, like, why are you saying, I'm able to come in. And when they start saying, my pastor gave me the scripture. And I have to go in that secret closet and say, Lord, give me the strength. And if they say, well, I still need to go and talk to my pastor. And my question to them is, ask your pastor, where was Jesus beating somebody in the head? Where was Jesus stripping them to the point? Because see, in my Bible, it says that he's my provider. So where was he stripping all the finances from them where they can't take care of home? I said, now he turned the table too. But we have to get back to the root. And so I give it to them. So when they go back, and I love when they come with scripture. Love it. Because I'm going to come back with you with scripture. Go ahead, Yolanda.
It made me think about one of the relationships that I was in. I was dating a preacher. And I talk about this in my book. He was, very high up in the church. He was the son of a pastor or of a bishop. And so he had, high standing in the community. And in those that saw him, they looked up to him and everything. And in the relationship with him, things started happening pretty quickly on in the beginning. I remember his mother, I was at his house, his parents' house, and I remember his mother pulling me to the side and saying to me, don't let anybody put you in the corner, not even my son. Now, at this time, things had not started happening yet. But for her to say that to me, she knew something about him, and I think about it now, like, why didn't she just say he ain't the one? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
She was, trying to protect her son at the same time, I'm sure.
And a lot of times those are the enablers, the parents, the sisters. I mean, let's keep it real. And I've been that sister.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hear what you had to say about my brothers.
Right.
But then when I started being trained, it was like, whoa, I got to step back. I have to read, now I will go to them. And if they ain't listening, I'm going to tell you, baby, run fast. That ain't it.
Yes.
And my brothers know that. All of them know. I'm not going to enable you in that mess.
That's awesome. And I wish, that she would have said that, because shortly after certain things started happening, when I first met him, we both went to the same college together. I was in a relationship with someone else at the time. And one of the first signs was the fact that he didn't care. He continued to pursue me until the point where when I finally broke up with the person I was with, that person was actually controlling and abusive as well. I broke up with that person and he, went on the prowl after that. And one of the first things that happened, I remember going to his dorm room and I didn't know, that he was crazy at the time, but I didn't know, I was attracted to him physically and everything. But I went to his dorm room. We were sitting there watching. I think I was sitting at his desk. And I remember wanting to leave the room. And because he kept just saying weird stuff and crazy stuff, and because of my abuse in the past, it kind of started shooting up red flags like, okay, yeah, I need to get out of his room because I don't know what's about to happen. And I remember sitting there and I was like, okay, I got to get out of this room. And I stood up to leave and he picked me up and slammed me on his bed. And at that moment, I remember thinking like, oh my God, what is about to happen? Because it was too late then, I was already in the situation. And I remember he let me up because I said, get off of me, let me get up and leave. He stopped, he got up, he let me get up to the door. Then he proceeded to fuss at me for putting footprints on his bed, even though he was the one that put me there. That was the beginning of it. I stayed longer because in my mind, I'm like, well, it's not that bad. You know, maybe he was just having like an off day. Time went on. Later on, we would be driving. One instance, we were driving down the road. He was driving. And it was always something that I said that made him upset. It was always my fault, even though it really, and in reality, it wasn't. I said something that he didn't like, and I remember him saying, you know, keep on, I'm gonna push you out the car. Me being the person I was, you ain't about to push me out the car. Like, you know, that's how my mindset was. And, you know, I continue to talk. Next thing I know, he's unbuckling my seatbelt and opening the door. And I'm fighting to keep the door closed, fighting to keep myself in the car. We struggled, and, you know, this whole time he's driving. And I eventually got the door back closed. And I'm just sitting there like, what the heck just happened? And those were the things that he would do. You know, it was always something to, sorry, my dad's bringing me something. It was always something that he would do pretty much to let me know that he was in control. To let me know, okay, you get too far out of line, I'm gonna bring you back in. There was another instance, same guy. Remember, again, he's a preacher. So anytime he would do something, he would try to use the word to cover what he did. And it used to literally disgust me because I grew up in the church and I knew that it wasn't right. The other part that led up to, I guess, the bigger event, there was a time I was at his house, again, said something that he didn't like. He proceeded to pick me up and held me upside down and told me that he would drop me on my head. He was a lot bigger than me, taller than me, stronger than me. And I remember being like, okay, this is too much, you know? I stayed too long, you get what I'm saying? But what ended up being the ending of that was one day he wanted to spend some time at his father's parsonage, which is across the street from the church. And I should have thought it weird that he wanted me to leave my car at the gas station down the street. But his reasoning was, you know, I don't want anybody to know that I'm bringing the female into the parsonage. So when we drive up, you know, they'll only see one car. And it was nighttime. So things went on, you know, throughout the evening. And he wanted to be intimate with me. At the time, I was a virgin. You know, I didn't have any desire to be sexually intimate with him because he had told me in the past that if he got, you know, certain places that he wasn't gonna stop. So the night went on, and I remember he wanted me to lay in the bed with him, and I was afraid to say no because of his abusive past. So I did lay in the bed with him, and he wanted to do certain things to me. And I already knew in my head where this was going, you know, but I felt like I couldn't stop it. And I remember him, you know, pulling my underwear down against my will. I remember him removing my pants against my will. And he proceeded, while I'm pushing him away, to, you know, try to have intercourse with me, basically. And the whole time I'm tugging, pushing him away. It went on to a certain extent until he was finished, basically. And I remember getting up, going in the front room, and I just sat there like, what just happened? You know? And the craziest thing that went on after that, I remember him coming to me on his knees, apologizing for losing control and saying to me, you know, I prayed and asked God to take this from me, and I'm so sorry. And him wanting me to embrace him after basically sexually assaulting me. I told him, just take me home. Just take me to my car so I can go home. Because again, my car was down the street, so I needed him to take me to my car. And I remember him taking me to the car, and I got in the car, and I started to drive home, and I just felt on the way to the car, I forgot about that part. He's quoting scriptures. And, sorry. He's quoting scriptures and trying to cover up, you know, or trying to justify what he had just done. And I'm just like disgusted, you know, at him, disgusted at myself, even though it wasn't my fault. But it's like you feel like, okay, how did I let it get this far? And I remember driving home. At the time, I still lived with my parents, and I was like, I got to make sure that they don't notice anything. I was 20. I think I was 21 at the time, and so I wanted to make sure they didn't notice anything, even with like laundry and stuff like that. And that was like my breaking point. It took me getting to the sexual assault for me to walk away from him. And the bad part about it was that it didn't end there. He didn't want to let me go, so he stalked me. He would call and throw it up in my face that he was able to get my panties down, literally. So that to me was like the turning point somewhat, because he used the God that I love to control me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful to God that, you know, I didn't lose it, because I was very close to it, losing, you know, my heart, my mind, and just trying to figure things out. And I was still, you know, going to church. I was a preacher as well. So I was pushing past it and acting like everything was okay. I wore the best mask. I mean, my mask was tight. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody would know unless you were extremely close to me. And even those extremely close to me wouldn't have known. I was helping other people get free, but I was bound.
And honestly, today has made me cry so much, guys.
Really.
But people need to know. And a lot of times people won't believe. They'll say, well, that happened on TV. But I want to say to my viewers, these are real life stories from real life people. The best way to bring awareness is sometimes telling real stories. At the end of the day, it's not about this organization, that organization. It's about what we're doing here today, pulling together to let you know that this happens. This is real. We're in a pandemic now where somebody can't tell anybody because jobs have went home. So people are working from home. You can't even have holidays together. We're Zooming, we're StreamYarding, we're YouTubing. But what I will say to you before I let each one of these ladies, you know, give you some words of encouragement and bring more awareness is, when you're talking to that family member, pay attention to the background. If a person only wants to talk to you on the phone and you're video conference calling and you know that they're declining, those are signs. Sometimes you just might got to get in your car and say, okay, I'm coming to check on you. I have to lay an eye on you. I have to know that you're okay. And let me be the first to say, sometimes you can go and you won't see a mark, you won't see a bruise, but pay attention to the conversation. Pay attention to the tone. Pay attention to how long they can talk to you. If it's a cousin that you can normally call and y'all can hee ha ha 30 to 40 minutes, and that'll change to 2 to 3 seconds. I always gotta go. I always got something to do. Those are signs. Make sure that your loved ones are safe in their homes. Again, a home shouldn't mean at risk. At home is supposed to be a place full of love, a place full of joy, a place full of happiness. But in the world that we have lived in and have overcome, and as Miss Yolanda Carter said, we have thrived to be out of, there should be love. There should be happiness, not hatred, coercion, and all of that, manipulation. We shouldn't go through that. We can all overcome. And I'm going to tell you, from a minister to you, prayer, and the Bible say faith without works is dead, meaning you have to put some action into wanting. You can pray all day. God can give you a way out. But if you're not going to go through and have a safety plan and want to get out, you're going to be stuck there. I will say to you, don't stay and become a statistic. Nobody deserves it. It's not your fault. We're all beautiful in our own way. Go ahead, Miss Pam.
I just want to say, because we keep throwing this word out, safety plan. And just for those people who don't exactly know what that is, I think we need to bring some clarity to it. In other words, that it takes some planning to get out of this thing, just that serious. Because statistically, and I can attest to that with my story, we know that the worst time for a victim is when she's planning to leave or after she's left. And people ask us these questions like, well, why don't she just leave and why do they stay? It irritates us, because guess what? I tell them we left about 12 times. I know what it's like to sleep outside. I know what it's like to sleep on the porch. Lord knows we slept on the church steps so many times that it didn't make any sense. I know what that's like. So it's not that they're not leaving, because statistically they leave at least 9 to 10 times. And you just know it because nobody is taking the time to talk to these people to really find out what actually is going on. So we just assume that just because she woke up that morning, and just like my mom said to us, I don't want my baby sleeping outside, and she went back, we naturally assume that she's not trying to get out, but they do. But when they do that, it is so challenging and it's so threatening. My mom's abuser had left the house. They were broken up. He was gone. It was us, my mom, my 2 sisters, and myself. He decided that, like most of them do, that if he can't have her, nobody can. To our house, he kicked the door in and he came into the bedroom and he stabbed her 13 times. We didn't get a chance to get up out of the bed with her. So when we're talking about safety plans, there's some things that you need to put in place. We don't want you to just up and leave, because Lord knows you're liable to get shot on your way out the door, or you're liable to get stabbed, or you're hit with the hammer in the head while you're asleep, because these people are strategic in their planning. So you have to be just as strategic as the abuser. So what are we saying here when we're talking about safety planning? Hey, that means you may need to pack up you some clothes, Take it to your friend's house and tell her, put this in the back of the closet for me. Get your pictures, get your photo albums, get your bank statements, get all of those important things. And each day you take those things to somebody that you know will protect those things for you. Get your social security cards, get them babies' birth certificates, get all of your important documents, and take those things each day, slowly but surely. And we're gradually getting you out of these things. But let somebody know, let me know. Call Yolanda, call Miss Angela, call one of us to say, you know what, this is what I'm doing today. Let somebody know what your plan is. I'm taking this to my friend Tanya's house. I'm taking this to my friend's Yvette house. She's going to keep these papers for me. You know, some extra clothes for the kids. So when it finally comes that you are ready to up and move, and it's hard, let us tell you, we know that it is hard to leave your abusers. But we know that if you don't, my sister said at my conference that I had last year, we are here today simply just to tell anybody that's dealing with this thing that you don't have to die. You can live.
Yeah.
We are here today to tell you you can live. So you get those things. We know it's not easy. We know that you love this person. But honey, this person that don't love you will kill you. Domestic violence don't care. So get those things together. Get your important documents. Get you some extra clothes. Save some money. Put some money to the side. Money that you're not going to put in the account that he or she may be watching. Get those things together. So on that day, and let's not forget to remind people that while we're asking, why don't they just leave? Statistically, 7 to 8 times before they decide, you know what, I'm out of here. But you know what? I'm just going to say it like this because we said we was going to keep it real, right? Let's just stop asking that question, period.
Exactly.
Let's just stop asking people that question, period. Because none of us can tell you the reason why we decided to stay is the same reason. Nobody has the same reason. Everybody's reason is different. But what we should focus on is this question here. Why are they abusing? Why did this person wake up every day and decide that they want to hit somebody? Why did her abuser decide that he wanted to beat her with a hammer? Why did this pastor decide that he wanted to take her off and rape her? Why did these people decide that they wanted to do this? No, we focused on the wrong thing. So we got to get more focused on why these abusers are doing what it is that they're doing as opposed to why she's staying. Because let me tell you, when you got 4 kids, you don't have a job. You don't have no money in the bank. It ain't easy for you to just up and go. And we're talking about right now being in a pandemic. You're not in a pandemic. Where are you going? Because the shelters are full. Where are you going? Where do you want her to go? Where do y'all expect for these people to go? But we got to plan this thing and we got to be able to say to them, you know what? Hey, bring those clothes over here. I'll put them in my closet. Bring your documents over here. I got a safe in my room. Yes, I'll put your documents and stuff in there. So when they are prepared that, you know what, this is the 8th time, I'm not going back this time, that they will be ready to go out and they'll be ready to start and they'll be able to start with exactly what they need. So when they're applying for housing, they have the birth certificates. They have their social security card. They have the deposits. And they're ready. That's the least that we can do.
And I'm going to piggyback on that, Miss Pamela. When you leave, because we don't talk about once you leave. We talk about while you're going through and preparing to leave. But when you leave, your life has to change tremendously. You have to change your social media. I know that is a way of connecting, but you have to change. Sometimes you have to disconnect from family, call them, let them know that you're okay. But sometimes you have to change your phone number. You have to change that email address. You have to change, you have to change you for your safety.
All right.
Miss Bernita, with what you just said, the one I was just talking about, I had to do that with him. I blocked on every area because the last kind of way he had tried to get in touch with me was through email. I changed my email address. He was trying to find out where I lived at, so I had to make sure that I was in a safe place and that I always had people around me. I moved with my brother at that time. brother didn't know that was why I moved with him that time, but we became roommates, because stalking, like it's an extension of
It
the
is.
abuse. So it was necessary.
And not only that, I know we don't want to tell our job our business, but sometimes you have to. You gotta, safety even at the workplace. Yes, Miss Talisha, you're on mute. Okay, go ahead, Miss Talisha.
Due to the stint of the abuse and with my son and him being arrested, we actually had to have a restraining order. So I had to change my whole identity. I don't even think the people around me really knew how much I had to go through. My phone number, my address. I had to locate the schools and make sure they knew we changed daycares. We had to do a lot because, we didn't know where he was or what he was going to do, as far as the safety of the kids and trying to figure out, if he take one of them, is he going to run with them, and so I do understand that you really have to be extremely careful because, and also I wanted to add that as a mom, sometimes, you do need to seek help because you're pushing past your pain when you got 3 children at the house that you got to raise, despite the fact that you just lost your husband, even though he was abusive. It was someone you loved, and now he's gone, and now you're raising kids by yourself, and you're having to change your whole life. And so part of what I like to do is not only to do the safety plan, but I became a coach to help women move forward and come up with a plan for their future. Because a lot of people don't know what to do when they come out of it.
Right.
So, that's part of what I do is try to help women. Because I had 3 kids. I was living on a teacher's salary. I put myself back in dental school. I went to dental school and became an assistant just to get into a different field. I even changed my job to be able to, and I had 3 kids and working as a teacher during the day, dental school by night. So I understand the struggle of having nothing and trying to build after coming out of domestic violence. So I know you can do it. If you're watching, you can do it. You are worth more. You don't have to stay in it. And that's the biggest thing, is having those plans in place, even not just the safety plan, but actually what you're going to do as far as your future is concerned. So, that's something that I like to encourage women, that they can make it.
Yep. And I encourage them to set small goals. Because once you see that you have made that small goal, you're gonna set something a little, a higher standard. You're gonna make it. You can make it. There were so many times when I first started the organization, people ask me, if you heal, why talk about it? The Bible says that my testimonies are my delight, and this is my testimony. You should tell your testimony to get somebody else out of that dark spot. And it helps. One of the viewers, my co-host, said, plan to secure your home and how you move. Yes, we need to make sure how we move is safe at all costs. And so you ladies have been truly, truly, truly amazing. So what we're going to do, we're going to wrap it up. And I'm going to let each one of you come through. You can give words of encouragement, how they can contact you if they find themselves in these situations. So we're going to start with Miss Yolanda Carter.
Okay. Hi, guys. Well, first of all, I want to say it's not your fault. You're not alone, and you do have options. Seek professional help when, especially if you're going through it and you see that there is no way that you can help yourself. Also, there is a domestic violence hotline that I want to give, and that's 1-800-799-7233. We know domestic violence is a crime. We also want to know that God gave you purpose through your pain. God can allow you to turn your lemons into lemonade. I always feel like I'm like that phoenix that rose above its ashes. Because if God can do it for me, He can definitely do it for you. So it's about self-loving. Love yourself and live. And don't let no one take your power away. God bless you all. It was an honor to be here with you all. Thank you all. And continue to make sure people are aware of domestic violence and how it not only affects the victim, it affects the community, your friends, family, and loved ones.
So
Blessings.
we're gonna do something just a little different. So Yolanda Henderson, I'm gonna ask you to do something for me. Um, so Yolanda Carter, haven't been able to celebrate her new birthday. And so Yolanda
Oh,
Henderson, can you sing happy birthday to her? Because every day that she's here is her birthday.
You want me to sing?
Yes.
Okay, I sure will. Happy birthday
thank you.
to you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, dear Yolanda. Happy birthday to you. You're so welcome.
Thank you
One thing
so
I
much.
do believe
Thank
in
you.
as queens, if our sister crown is tilted, we're gonna straighten it. And so it's not the party that you want, but it's the party that we're gonna give you. We love you. We love you. We love you. And keep doing
Thank
what you
you.
do. Um,
Thank you.
and guys, if you do not have her book,
Thank
get it.
you.
It's called One Eye Witness. I will post it. She has it, but I will also post a link. Uh, so thank you, Yolanda.
Thank you.
Miss Pamela.
You're welcome.
I think I would reiterate what I said because that's what's ringing in my spirit. My sister said at my conference, she said, you don't have to die. You can live. And today we are extending a lifeline to some people out there that's dealing with this thing. Today you have a lifeline. I get to see right now as I listen to Sister Yolanda Carter's story, there's a law of reciprocity that takes place. So even though my mom had to go one way, God allowed me to meet you today to see that not everybody has to go that way. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm grateful for that place. I'm thankful and I'm so grateful that God allowed you and He spared your life. I'm thankful to each and every one of you women that are here today to extend a lifeline to someone to say you don't have to die, but you can live. And to me, that is so important for the people that are watching, that are dealing with this thing. I know that you are hurting. I know that you are in pain, but you don't have to die in this thing. You can live. So reach out to one of these ladies here. And another thing that I want to reiterate is that your children are watching. Your children are listening. Your children are impacted and they are affected just as much. They may not wear the black eyes. Lord knows I didn't wear the black eye, but I'm telling you, to have to carry my mother through a creek because she had been stabbed felt like I was the victim. Your children are watching. Your children are dealing with this thing. There's a statistic out there that says children who witness domestic violence in the home, Yolanda Carter, you talk about PTSD. It says these children experience the same PTSD as soldiers who go off and fight in the war. Your children are watching. But today, God has mandated lifelines for you so that you don't have to die in this thing. So today you have been given another chance to live, to thrive, to be the best you that you could possibly be. And we are here to help you. So if you want to reach us, you guys, comment here. She knows how to get in touch with each and every one of us. But we are here
Yes.
because we want to speak to every ounce of every fiber of your being, every ounce of your spirit, and we want to say, live. That's all I can say today is live. You don't have to die. Don't let your children see you die. Don't let your children come into this room and find your head open and your brain matter laying in the bed. Don't let your children know what it's like to taste your blood because somebody is stabbing you and it's splashing up in their face. Don't allow this thing. You don't have to allow this thing because you have been given a lifeline today. And I just hope that anyone out there that's listening to this thing, that you will accept the lifeline that you have been given, because today God is giving you a second chance to live. So live.
Yes. Miss Talisha.
I would say that in my case, I would say just don't let it come to a point where you're forced to end the situation. You know, it took for my son to be abused and at 2 months old and almost lose his life.
Mm. And I want to say to you,
you can make it out. There is hope in the future. If you're here for a reason. And there's so many people that love and care about you that can help you. So make sure that you reach out and get the help that you need, and don't have to be forced to get help, but do it because your children don't deserve it. You know, you deserve more. And don't sell yourself short and feel like that you have to put yourself in these situations. It's plenty of people that's been there. And I thank God for everybody on the panel today that they were open to their story, because we've been there. We've been in the situations, and we're here to help. And there is life after abuse.
it is. Talisha, thank you so much for your strength. And I know each story is different. So I'll say to my viewers, as you hear, but the strength to still push, taking care of your babies, doing what you have to do to keep them safe. It don't go unnoticed. Just know that we're praying for you. We're excited for you. God has blessed you also with a new journey to get you a helpmate. So we're excited. Excited. And guys, anybody that's watching, this roundtable has been very touchy, but it's been very real. Very real. This is what you call strength. The tears are tears saying that we're going to pull together. I will wipe your eye, you will wipe mine. But we're going to get through this. There is a bond like never before. But we're going to push through. And if I can't do it, I thank God for the circle that He has put here today. If I don't know, I don't mind asking questions. But I thank you guys. And Miss Yolanda Henderson.
Oh, this has been heavy. I'm thankful for each one of you ladies. To the viewers or to somebody that may watch this, I want you to know that it is not your fault, that you didn't choose to go through what you've gone through. Yes, maybe you've made some decisions, but we have all made some bad decisions. It is not it's not your fault, and it does not have to be your end. Your condition is not your identity. So whatever you are going through and whatever you have been through, God is going to allow all of those things to be used to work together for your good. All of it, the ugly, the good, the bad, all of it. And know that you are not going through this alone. We are here to help you. You can add me on my personal page. My personal page is Yolanda Henderson. It's public. My other page is Breaking the Cycle of Abuse. do not allow yourself to continue to stay in what you're in. This is not your end. Today, I decree that this is your beginning.
Mhm.
And I pray that anybody that watches this now or that replays it and watches it later, that the presence of God would overtake you and cause you to have a strength and a courage that would allow you to get up and walk away in whatever way that you can, in a safe way. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity.
Amen.
I want to say to all the viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to the speakers at the roundtable. We appreciate each one of your stories. I want to say to anybody that's viewing or anyone that views afterwards, you do not have to go through this alone. You do not have to be silent. We're breaking the silence now. We want you to speak up. I will say to anybody, if a person get the strength to come to you, don't be just a running mouth. Be a listening ear. Do not do not put them down because they've been through enough and been put down enough. You be that person to strain their crown and allow them to know that you're going to be right there every step of the way. If you don't know how to be there, you can reach out to any of us on this panel. You can comment or you can inbox me. No matter what city you're in, no matter what state you're in, it's about making sure you get what you need to be safe. Also, know that your home should be your safe place. If your home has you at risk, as we told you before, a safety plan, which is packing those things, getting them somewhere. So when that day comes and you have to go, you have your important documents. You have extra clothing because sometimes when you're making that quick exit out the door, you have to go with what you have on your back. So plan, be safe, and just know that if you need us, we're right here. It don't matter which organization help you. Just know it's organizations out that's willing to help. So I want to say to everyone, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Even though we're in a pandemic with COVID-19, don't allow your situation to be another statistic to put your family in a pandemic of domestic violence. At home shouldn't mean at risk. And on behalf of Breaking the Silence on Domestic Violence, we want to thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of our broadcast. You all be blessed and have an awesome afternoon.
Thank you too.